What's going on, everybody? Matt Malatesta here. Shaun Stevens, St. Pius X. The Panthers are ready to get on the board this week against St. Thomas. Let's go. All right. Hey, Coach, you had an off week. The bye week is great sometimes just to kind of get recharged and kids getting, recharged as well and healthy. How did y'all use this off week going into district play?
Well, each week is a culture building week. So, of course, just talking culture, Bible studies. We talked about, what was the last one we just did? Talking about many are called, but few are chosen, was our verse that we went through. Not only that, we got a couple extra days of prep for Thomas, which is always great. And then let the kids get off on Friday to relax a little bit and give the coaches a day off also. So a little reboot time.
What do y'all like to do as it relates to kind of like team building type stuff? Because again, these guys are just still kids, like 16, 17, 15-year-olds. What do y'all do to kind of just have some fun with them?
Fun. Okay, before we get into fun, one thing that we do that's for me, that's like a really, really big culture builder is like Truth Thursdays. Now sometimes we do it on Thursday, it might be a Truth Tuesday, and we just sit down and just reflect on who we are as players, young men, older men for the coaches, and just reflect on like how can we become better men. Another thing we did today, we got an opportunity to meet in the gym. I got a chance to meet with some of the kids that are injured. And I know one thing that's huge when you suffer injury is your mental health. And so got a chance to meet with those kids. I got a couple of them I kind of try to touch bases with a couple of days a week, but we got a chance to sit down and just check in and see like where you at mentally, after the injury. And so that's really good. Hopefully that helps the kids out because I know it after injury, you feel very distant from the team. So that's kind of like almost like a small group, little culture builder. We haven't got a chance to do the ultimate fun stuff, right? They like to play basketball, things like that. But I know in the summertime, we got a chance to bring out one of my coaches has the big water slides and stuff like that. That was fun. The kids really liked that. So we win this game Saturday. We'll bring it out again for them.
Perfect. Tell me about, coaching from when you were a player to coaching now. It's so much more, let's call it, there's just so many more facets to it. Just talk about, how do you think coaching back then was just raw coaching? Now there's so many other things that go into it.
Well,
harder, easier. What is the difference now?
Now, well, it's a lot of different differences. We have way more resources now, right? Back then, when I was in high school, our coaches had to go out and watch every game, right? Get it recorded. So at some point, people were recording with VHSs and all that stuff. Now you got it on Huddle. It's easy to access. So it is a little bit easier in a way, right? Back then, I kind of talked about this last time, like you couldn't have a lot of open dialogue conversations with your coach. Like you're a kid, you're in a kid's place. I'm an adult. You do what I say, whether or not I'm right or wrong, you do what I say. If you're a receiver and I tell you to run a go route, but I want you to run behind the line of scrimmage, run a go route, you just shut up and did it. It was wrong, but you did it, right? Yes, sir, no, sir. Now it's more so you have to be more cognizant of the kids we have. They have so much more information. So you tell a kid something wrong, man, they got phones and GPT chat, and they're going to call you on it, So as coaches now, you got to be a little bit more humble or be able to kind of like tell someone when you're wrong, right? As a coach, I'm able to say, hey, man, I made a mistake. That was my bad. And I think back then it was not always like that. You'd have your few coaches who you were kind of close with, but I think the coaches now, they understand things have changed a lot. So they're a little bit more flexible with the kids. And there was times back then where it's like you can't wear certain things. And now it's kind of like, well, this kid wants to wear it because it makes him feel good. Okay, cool. Right. Kids were a little bit tougher back then, though. That's a little bit different, right? But the coaching was a little bit tougher, in a good way and in a bad way. You got injured back then, they say, hey, throw some dirt on and get back in. And then all of a sudden, you fast forward now, that injury that you had then, that was actually a concussion. Yeah. So now it's kind of like the coaches now are more so cognitive of injuries and prevention and keeping you safe and healthy. Not to say they didn't back then, but again, they didn't have all the information to say, oh, this guy has a concussion. It was just more like, you're being soft, man. How many fingers am I holding up? One. That's 5, but you're good. Go back in, But
When you're watching football, like who do you like to watch as a coach? You're a receiver. Who do you love to watch as a receiver? When you're just, and you might not have a ton of time to do this, but when you're watching some highlights, who do you love to watch?
Just offensively, I love watching the Chiefs, right? High-powered offense. Andy Reid's great coach. College, I like watching Tennessee, Heupel, the Brown system. I'm a big fan of that. Receivers, my favorite receiver growing up was Steve Smith.
Mm.
Yeah, undersized guy, super tough, hard worker. Um, was quiet when he needed to be, and when someone pushed the button, he was a whole nother guy, you know. But I definitely loved him. I like Chad Johnson, entertaining guy, great route runner. And then, of course, you got the greats, the Jerry Rice of the world, the Randy Moss, TOs. But definitely one of my favorite guys was definitely Steve Smith.
When I'm talking with coaches, I'm just kind of fascinated with the really good coaches are their attention to detail is paramount. I think that's the communication is great, but I think the attention to detail is defines a great coach.
Yeah.
How can you be a coach and learn the attention to detail, or are you just kind of locked in and have always had it?
It's a little bit of both, right? You can be around the game so long that you understand those little small things, but also I always feel like anybody can grow and become better, right? I remember, and then through trial and error, you grow, right? So I remember a while back we played the Village, and this was a high scoring game. The score ended up being like, it was like 41 or 43, something crazy like that, right? And the end of the game, they do an onside kick, right? And I remember watching on TV, Bill Belichick said that as a head coach, he's like, whenever I see another head coach in a special teams huddle, onside kick is coming. So
Ooh.
that moment went through my brain. Like I looked over there and I see the head coach. I mean, he's over in the huddle with the special teams. And I'm like, freaking, they about to do onside kick. But before I could like say anything, they end up kicking onside kick and getting it. But fast forward now through that trial and error, I learned that, right? As a player, I learned that when you're a receiver and you line up with a lazy stance, you're probably not running a route. It's a run play, right? You're super excited. It's follow your pass, right? So those little things I learned from as a player. The ones I learned trial and error. And also I've been around some really good coaches, or you get to be around some really good coaches, and they have little things that they show you and tell you. A lot of pressure on the hand means run for O lineman. Less pressure might be a pass. As a quarterback, you can look at his indicators and his hands go up for when the ball's going to get snapped, right? So you're setting up your blitzes off of those. But definitely trial and error. You can have it, right? Because you play a while, but you also can learn those things.
Dude, you just told me like 5 things I'm going to start watching more. Exactly. I mean, it's the little details that go so far. All right, let's talk Thomas. St. Thomas, perennial power, having a little bit of a down year so far this year, but what are the keys for you guys in this game?
Offensively, I ain't gonna give away my game plan, right? I'm gonna say what the other teams did. They had success. They ran the ball well. St. John, Lake, and also they played Kincaid. All of them ran the ball well. Got some really good running backs, right? But also 2 or 3 explosive plays each game kind of set the game up, and then putting the ball out on perimeter to their better players, allow them to move the ball and score some points. Defensively, what we got to do is they're a heavy pass team. Right? You look at the last couple of games, they got the new transfer quarterback, right? So as a coach, you're thinking like, I got a new quarterback. He's a 3-4 star guy. So we need to allow him to win the game for us. So they're throwing the ball 40 plus times a game, right? So of course we need to stop the pass. So those are definitely the key things. I watched the other teams. They did a good job, but he threw the ball 40-something times, but he threw a pick here and there, had a couple incompletions. So whatever we have to do to correct those same incompletions, those turnovers, whether it's more pressure, softer coverage, tighter coverage, that's what we're going to be doing this game to try and get the edge. And then, like you said, they're having a down year. So, I mean, we're humans, right? So as a coach, you might start feeling like you lost your mojo, right? And so now you may get away from stuff that you would consider your base. And now you might just be running stuff because your mojo is gone because you're like, man, how are we 0-3? Well, you play some really good teams. That's why. And you graduated a lot of seniors last year. So that's why. But each year is so different, and you go into the following year and you've been a good program, you might feel like you lost your mojo. So hopefully they feel that way when they play against us and they have all of a sudden recharge with their off week. But no, I'm excited. It's going to be a awesome opportunity for us.
All right, everybody, get out to the games. Hey, big one, big one. This is a traditional rivalry, man. St. Pius X going against St. Thomas this week. Check it out. This is Coach Shaun Stevens of SPX, the Panthers, the lead Panther. This is Matt with VYPE. We'll see y'all at the games.